Welcome to HFY Fiction Journey, where humans prove once again that brains beat brawn, and sometimes we're just too clever for our own good. Today's story, aliens think they've got it all figured out until they meet us. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for them. But before we dive into the action, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Because, hey, you wouldn't want to miss more tales of humans outsmarting the galaxy, would you? Is that bait? Captain Arlen frowned as he studied the holographic display, blinking as if that would help him make sense of the absurd scene before him. There, in the heart of enemy territory, sat a lone human soldier, casually cleaning his weapon in plain sight of several armed Zalan patrols. Beside him, a fire crackled cheerfully with a small pot resting on top, sending up steam. The human occasionally stirred it with a spoon, tasting whatever he was cooking, as if he'd set up a cozy camp in the middle of a war zone. The soldier appeared completely unconcerned by the dozens of hostile troops surrounding him. Arlen squinted at the projection. "They can't be that foolish," he muttered. Sergeant Kell, standing beside him, added, "Humans are known for many things, Captain, but foolishness isn't one of them." The Zorian War Council had gathered in the command tent, planning their next move against the humans, a recently discovered race that had already proven to be a thorn in the side of the mighty Zalan Empire. Their fleet had been decimated by human forces shortly after first contact, and every attempt at conventional combat had ended in disaster. Humans reveled in their unpredictability, but this was blatant, even for them. The lone soldier, surrounded by enemy patrols, looked so relaxed it was almost comical. "What is he doing?" Arlen growled, turning to his officers. "Is it a distraction, a trap, or some sort of human madness?" "Maybe all three," muttered Lieutenant Jasek. "We've underestimated them before, sir." Arlen bristled at the comment. Even though Jasek was right, the humans had made a mockery of the Zalan war machine from the start. Their tactics were like nothing the Zalans had encountered before, built on something the Zalans struggled to comprehend: improvisation. Arlen had seen it firsthand. How humans could change their entire strategy in the middle of a battle, adapting faster than any other species he'd ever faced. And now, here was a lone human soldier in the heart of their territory, sitting as if he were on a camping trip. It was infuriating, the sheer audacity of it. "We should capture him," Jasek suggested suddenly, breaking the silence. "Take him alive and see what he knows. If he's still alive, it's because he wants to be," Arlen replied. "It's too easy, too obvious." Kell folded his arms. "They do like their psychological games, Captain. I wouldn't put it past them." Arlen chewed on his lip, considering. "If we could capture him, get him to talk, maybe we could learn how they think. We need an advantage. They're always 10 steps ahead. Or 100, Sergeant Chesk muttered darkly. "Do we have scouts in the area?" Arlen asked. "Yes, sir," Kell replied. "2 squads have been watching him for the past few hours. No other humans have shown up, and the man hasn't moved from his spot. Not even to sleep. Not once." Kell shook his head. "Not once. That's unnatural. No soldier can stay that alert without rest." "Unless it's a trick," Jasek offered. "They could have some new technology keeping him awake," Kell interrupted, "or he's not alone. Maybe they're cloaked. Maybe we're looking at bait, and the real danger is out there, waiting for us." "Cloaked?" Arlen spat. "You think they have invisible troops? They're not magicians, Kell." "No, but they are cunning." The Zalan soldier hadn't even seen the human draw his knife. "Well," the human said, wiping his blade on his sleeve, "this was fun. Want to send a few more my way." The last Zalan soldier stumbled back, tripping over a tree root. His heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing to process what he had just witnessed. In mere seconds, the human had taken down 2 of his best-trained men, not just defeated them, but obliterated them. The human stood there, relaxed but with sharp, focused eyes. That look alone sent a chill down the soldier's spine. "You're not running, are you?" the human asked, tilting his head casually, as if they were discussing the weather. The Zalan couldn't respond. His mouth was dry, and his limbs were frozen in terror. He knew humans were dangerous, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Oh, come on," the human grinned, taking a slow step forward. "Running makes this so much more exciting. Gives me a bit of a workout, you know." The Zalan leader fumbled for his comm device, but his hands were shaking too much to press the right button. He had to call for backup. They had underestimated the human again. This was no ordinary soldier. He was some kind of predator. The human took another step, his boots crunching softly on the forest floor. "Let me guess," he said. "You thought you could sneak up on me? Take me quietly? Do I look that stupid to you?" Finally, the Zalan pressed a button, and his comm crackled to life. "We need support. Send reinforcements. We—" Before he could finish, the human moved. In one smooth motion, he threw a small, sharp knife that sliced the comm device in half. The Zalan's heart skipped a beat. "No need to bother them," the human said, his voice calm. "This is between us." The soldier's knees buckled. What do you want? Why are you here?" The human shrugged. "Just following orders." "Same as you." He paused, thinking. "Well, maybe not exactly the same. I mean, I'm not here to die in a dumb ambush. This wasn't—" The Zalan stammered, but the human cut him off with a laugh. "Don't bother," the human said, shaking his head. "I've seen it before. You Zalans think you've got us figured out, but every time you try something, it's the same story. You think we'll play by your rules." He waved a hand dismissively. "But we don't." The Zalan's eyes darted to his fallen comrades, and he could hear more troops approaching in the distance. Maybe there was hope after all. The human's grin widened, as if he could read his mind. "Backup? Too late for them, too. They're walking into something worse than this little encounter." He gestured at the lifeless bodies. "I'm not the only one out here." The words hung in the air, heavy with dread. There were more humans waiting, watching. The Zalan had walked into a trap within a trap. The Zalan leader felt his pulse racing, his mind searching for an escape, but there was none. He was outclassed, pinned, and completely out of options. Then the human surprised him again. "You know," the human said, wiping blood from his knife, "I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll give you a choice." He crouched down, looking the soldier in the eyes. "You can run. I'll give you a head start. Maybe you'll make it back to base. Maybe you'll live to fight another day." The Zalan swallowed hard. Or what? "Or," the human said, "you can try to kill me right now. You've got your weapon, right? You can fight, but I warn you." He leaned closer, his expression darkening. "If you try, I won't make it quick." The Zalan stared at the human, trying to gauge if this was some kind of joke. But the coldness in the human's eyes told him it wasn't. "What's it going to be?" the human asked, standing up and stretching his arms casually, as if he had all the time in the world. "Run or fight." The Zalan's fingers tightened around his weapon. Running might buy him time, but what if the human was lying about the head start? On the other hand, fighting was suicide. There was no way he could beat this soldier. But surrender wasn't an option. Zorian warriors didn't surrender. The human sighed and glanced at his wrist, as if checking the time. "You're taking too long. I'll decide for you." Before the Zalan could react, the human lunged. His weapon was knocked from his hands in an instant, and sharp pain blossomed in his side. He gasped, feeling blood pooling around the wound. The human had struck with precision. Painful but not fatal. "Sorry," the human said, wiping his knife again. "Guess you're not much of a fighter after all." The Zalan collapsed to the ground, clutching his side, gasping for breath. His vision blurred as he felt the life draining from him. Through the haze of pain, he heard more Zalan troops approaching, the reinforcements he had called for earlier. The human stood over him, calmly watching. "Looks like your friends are here. Well, that's my cue." With one last mocking salute, the human disappeared into the trees, leaving the Zalan alone. Moments later, the reinforcements arrived, too late to save him. They found only the aftermath of a battle that had lasted mere minutes, and the haunting realization that the humans had once again outplayed them. Barely conscious, the wounded soldier whispered one last word before the darkness took him. Cunning, the Zalan reinforcements, 12 strong and heavily armed, moved cautiously through the forest, their weapons drawn. The reports from their comms had been fragmented, filled with static and abrupt cutoffs. Something was very wrong. When they reached the clearing, they found their comrades sprawled on the ground, lifeless. Plasma burns and brutal close-quarter wounds marked their bodies. The only one still alive was a unit leader, barely clinging to life, his breath ragged and shallow. "Medic," one of the soldiers barked, kneeling by the fallen leader. "He's still breathing." The medic rushed forward, injecting the injured Zalan with a stimulant to try to stabilize him. The leader's eyes fluttered open for a moment, wild with pain and fear. "What happened?" the squad leader demanded, kneeling beside him. The injured Zalan's voice was weak, barely a whisper. The human, it was a trap, more coming, Cunning. Before he could say more, his body went still, the life draining from his eyes. The squad leader stood, rage boiling inside him. "Spread out. Find that human. If we don't bring him back, we're all dead." They fanned out into a defensive formation, weapons scanning every tree and shadow, every rustle in the wind. But no matter how much they searched, the human was nowhere to be found. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving only destruction behind. "He's close," one of the soldiers muttered, scanning the trees with his visor. "I can feel it." "Stay sharp," the leader growled. "He can't have gone far." The forest was silent, too silent. Every footstep seemed louder than it should, and every breath felt too heavy. The Zalan soldiers were trained, but fear was creeping into their bones. This human had already taken down some of their best men without even breaking a sweat. A sudden snap of a twig behind them sent the entire squad spinning around, weapons raised. But there was nothing, just the wind. "He's playing with us," one of the soldiers hissed, his grip tightening on his rifle. "It's like we're the prey." The leader clenched his teeth, knowing that was exactly what was happening. They weren't hunting the human. He was hunting them. A flicker of movement from the trees caught his eye. "There, on the left." "Move!" They charged toward the movement, weapons firing. Plasma bolts scorched the bark of trees, but hit nothing. When they reached the spot, they realized it had been a decoy, a rock placed on a branch, swaying in the breeze. Their hearts pounded, frustration mounting. "He's mocking us," the leader growled. Another soldier called out from a few yards away, "I found something." The squad gathered around what the soldier had discovered. Another campfire, still smoldering. Next to it was an empty ration pack marked with human symbols. "He's close," the squad leader said, narrowing his eyes. "We've got him cornered now. Spread out, but stay in sight of each other." They began to fan out again, moving with more urgency now. The tension was palpable, every soldier on edge. But then, one by one, they noticed something strange. There were no sounds of birds, no insects buzzing, nothing. Suddenly, the ground beneath them gave way. A dozen Zalan soldiers fell into a deep, concealed pit. The floor of the pit was lined with crude but deadly spikes, designed to disable but not kill instantly. The trap was simple but ingenious, and all the more horrifying because of it. Groans of pain filled the air as the soldiers struggled to get up, impaled and bleeding. But the worst was yet to come. The human appeared at the edge of the pit, looking down at the writhing Zalans with a cold, calculating expression. He hadn't just set a trap. He'd made them walk right into it. "Let me guess," the human said, crouching at the edge of the pit. "You thought it would be different this time, that you could outsmart us or overpower us with numbers." The squad leader, wounded but alive, glared up at the human. "Kill us then, end it." The human shook his head. "That's not how we work. You see, humans don't fight fair. We don't charge into battles head first. We don't care about honorable combat. We care about surviving and making sure you remember why messing with us was a bad idea. The Zalans lay there, helpless and seething, but they knew he was right. Time and again, humans had proven themselves not just as warriors, but as tacticians, always one step ahead. Their unpredictability, their refusal to follow any kind of conventional warfare, it was both infuriating and terrifying. "We'll be back," the leader snarled through gritted teeth. "The Empire will never stop." The human's face remained impassive. "Maybe, but when you come back, you'll remember today. You'll remember that humans don't play by your rules." He stood, turning away. "And next time, it won't just be me waiting for you." Without another word, the human disappeared into the forest, leaving the Zalans to their fate. They were beaten, humiliated, but alive. It was a deliberate choice on the human's part. This wasn't just a victory. It was a message, one that would echo across the galaxy.